I caught my son stealing my life's work while I pretended to be unconscious. My name is Frank Johnson. 3 weeks ago, I watched Tyler forge my signature on documents that would steal my $8.5 million restaurant empire, Johnson's Family Restaurants, and destroy 67 families who'd built it with me for 30 years. Tyler thought I was in a coma. He had no idea I was recording every word. Dad won't need this money where he's going, Tyler told his lawyer while guiding my limp hand across fake will papers. These employees are dead weight anyway. Mega Food Corporation will clean house. Dead weight. He called Maria, who knows every customer's name, dead weight. He called Manuel, who trained his nephew to cook with pride, dead weight. But Tyler made one fatal mistake. 14 months earlier, I'd already signed my real will and hidden it where he'd never think to look. This story gets wild, so hit subscribe if you want to see how this plays out. Seriously, you won't believe what happens next. Because sometimes the best revenge is giving away everything your betrayer thinks they deserve. To understand Tyler's betrayal, you need to see how it started. Not with the forged will, but with 1,000 small cruelties that built up over 2 years. It began in October 2021, during our weekly management meeting at the flagship location. Tyler had just finished his MBA at Drake University and joined the business as Strategic Development Director, a title he insisted on. "Dad, we need to discuss your approach to customer service," Tyler announced, pulling out his laptop. The way he said approach made it sound like a disease. I was reviewing food costs with Carol Smith, our restaurant manager who'd been with us for 20 years. She knew every recipe, every supplier, every regular customer by name. "What's wrong with our customer service?" I asked. Tyler clicked through his PowerPoint slides. "You spent 45 minutes yesterday talking to Mrs. Henderson about her grandson's baseball team. That's inefficient use of management time." Mrs. Henderson had been eating our Tuesday meatloaf special for 12 years. Her late husband proposed to her in booth 7 back in 1987. She's family, Tyler. She's a customer who orders the $12.95 special and takes up space that could turn tables faster. Tyler's voice carried that MBA confidence that mistook coldness for intelligence. "We're leaving money on the table with these emotional attachments." Carol shifted uncomfortably. She'd been the one who suggested we comp Mrs. Henderson's meal on her wedding anniversary every year. 2 weeks later, Tyler held an efficiency seminar for our staff. I watched from the kitchen as he explained how employees needed to maximize revenue per guest interaction instead of wasting time on small talk. Maria Rodriguez, our head waitress for 15 years, raised her hand. "But Mr. Johnson always taught us that remembering customers' names and asking about their families is what makes us special." Tyler's smile was razor thin. "Maria, with respect, minimum wage positions require efficiency, not friendship. We're running a business, not a social club." The silence that followed was deafening. Maria's face flushed red, but she nodded and looked down at her notepad. That night, I found Maria crying in the parking lot after her shift. "I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson. I know I'm not educated like your son, but I thought caring about people mattered." "It does matter, Maria, more than any MBA could teach." But Tyler wasn't finished. During Thanksgiving week, he announced a new performance optimization plan that would eliminate what he called legacy inefficiencies. "These employees have been here too long," he told me, scrolling through personnel files. "Carol makes $48,000 a year. We could hire 2 part-timers for that cost and increase scheduling flexibility. Carol trained half our management team. She knows this business better than anyone." "Dad, nostalgia doesn't pay the bills. We need to think bigger than your small-town mentality." Small-town mentality, coming from someone who'd never worked a dinner rush or cleaned a fryer at 2 a.m. The breaking point came during our Christmas party in December 2022. Tyler stood up to give what he called remarks about our future direction. "I want to thank everyone for their service this year," he began, reading from his phone. "As we move into 2023, we'll be implementing strategic changes to position Johnson's for scalable growth and operational excellence." I watched our employees exchange confused glances. These weren't strategic assets. They were people who'd missed their kids' soccer games to cover shifts, who'd worked double time during COVID when we could barely pay them. "Some of you may find these changes challenging," Tyler continued. "But evolution requires leaving comfortable habits behind. We can't let sentiment hold us back from our potential." After the party, I sat in the empty restaurant staring at 30 years of family photos covering the walls. Pictures of employees' weddings, graduations, new babies. Tyler wanted to replace them with modern branding elements. That's when I made my first call to Attorney Williams about employee stock ownership plans. I'd given Tyler every opportunity to show respect for the people who built this business. Instead, he'd shown me exactly who he really was. By January 2023, Tyler's strategic vision became crystal clear, and it terrified me. He'd scheduled a meeting with Mega Food Corporation, the chain that had already swallowed up 3 local restaurant groups in the past 5 years. I only found out because their advance team mistakenly called our main line instead of Tyler's direct number. This is Jennifer Walsh from Mega Food Corporate Development. We're confirming tomorrow's 2 p.m. meeting with Tyler Johnson regarding acquisition discussions. I told her she had the wrong number and hung up. Then I sat in my office, staring at the phone, feeling something die inside my chest. 30 years. 30 years of 80-hour weeks, of maxing out credit cards to make payroll during lean months, of missing family dinners to fix broken equipment, and my son was shopping us around like a used car. That evening, I drove to each of our 5 locations, Johnson's Original on Forest Avenue, where we'd started, Johnson's West on 86th Street, Johnson's Downtown near the Capitol Building, Johnson's South Side, which had become the community heartbeat for that neighborhood, and Johnson's East, our newest location that employed a dozen recent immigrants who sent money home to their families. At each stop, I watched our employees. Really watched them. At Southside, I found Manuel Gutierrez training his teenage nephew Roberto on the prep station. Manuel had been with us for 8 years, working his way up from dishwasher to assistant kitchen manager. Roberto was saving money for community college. "Mr. Johnson!" Manuel smiled when he saw me. "Roberto's getting good with the knife work. Maybe in 6 months he's ready for the line." I knew Manuel's story. His wife Sophia cleaned offices at night while he worked our dinner shift. Together, they'd saved $23,000 toward buying a small house. Their daughter Carmen was class valedictorian this year, heading to Iowa State on partial scholarship. "That's great, Manuel. Keep up the good work." But inside I was calculating. If Megafood bought us, their standard operating procedure would eliminate 40% of current staff within 60 days. They'd replace experienced cooks like Manuel with minimum wage part-timers following corporate recipe cards. At Downtown, I found Linda Peterson, our day shift supervisor, helping a new employee understand our customer loyalty system. Linda had worked 3 jobs to support her mother's cancer treatments until I promoted her to full-time with benefits in 2019. "See, Mrs. Chen comes in every Wednesday for the chicken pot pie," Linda was explaining. "She always asks for extra gravy on the side because her husband likes it that way. Just remember those little things." Mega Foods' training manual was 96 pages of standardized procedures. There was no section about remembering that Mr. Riley likes his coffee refilled exactly twice, or that the Thompson family always sits in the corner booth because their autistic son feels comfortable there. The next morning, I confronted Tyler about the meeting. "You're selling the business? Without discussing it with me?" Tyler didn't even look up from his laptop. "Dad, you're 62 years old. You should be thinking about retirement, not expansion. Megafood is offering $8.5 million. That's generational wealth. What about our employees? What about them? They'll have the opportunity to reapply for positions under Megafood's hiring standards. The qualified ones will be fine." The qualified ones. Tyler's way of saying most of our people weren't good enough for corporate standards. I pulled up Megafood's acquisition history on my phone. When they bought Romano's Pizza in 2021, they terminated 23 of 35 employees within 3 months. When they acquired Chester's Diner in 2022, they closed 2 of 4 locations and laid off 41 people. Tyler, these people have families, mortgages, kids in college, and they'll find other jobs. Dad, you can't run a business like a charity. Megafood has economies of scale we can't compete with. We either sell now or get crushed later. That afternoon, I called Carol into my office and closed the door. "Carol, I need to ask you something confidential. If Johnson's was sold to a corporate chain, what would happen to our people?" Her face went pale. "Are we being sold?" "Tyler's exploring options. I need your honest opinion." Carol sat down heavily. "Mr. Johnson, half our staff wouldn't meet corporate hiring requirements. Maria never finished high school. James has that old assault conviction from 15 years ago. Miguel's English isn't perfect yet. Corporate chains run background checks and require specific qualifications." What about the senior staff? They'd keep maybe 10 people across all 5 locations. The rest? She shrugged helplessly. 67 families, Mr. Johnson. Some of these people have been here longer than Tyler's been alive. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Manuel's nephew, Roberto, about Linda's mother's medical bills, about Maria's pride in knowing every regular customer's order by heart. Tyler saw dollar signs. I saw lives. The choice was simple. Let my son destroy 67 families or find another way. I called Attorney Williams the next morning. The forged will appeared on December 1st, exactly 3 weeks after Tyler thought I'd entered a coma. Let me explain the coma. It wasn't real, obviously, but Tyler's reaction to my medical emergency told me everything I needed to know about his character. It started when I collapsed during our Monday morning staff meeting. Not a real collapse. I'd been planning this performance for weeks with Dr. Sarah Mitchell, my longtime physician and close friend. The heart episode was carefully choreographed, dramatic enough to require hospitalization, mysterious enough to justify an induced coma for neurological monitoring. Tyler's first question at the hospital wasn't about my condition. It was about who had power of attorney. Dr. Mitchell, when will we know if his cognitive functions are impaired? Tyler asked, still wearing his golf clothes from where the hospital call had interrupted his Saturday morning round. We're monitoring his brain activity, Dr. Mitchell replied carefully. She'd agreed to this deception only after I explained Tyler's acquisition plans and what they'd mean for our employees. Induced comas can last days or weeks. Recovery varies significantly. Tyler nodded, but I caught something in his expression that chilled me. Relief. He pulled out his phone and stepped into the hallway. Through my barely cracked eyelids, I watched him dial. Jennifer? It's Tyler Johnson. Yes, about the acquisition. We've had a development. My father is currently in a medically induced coma. I understand the timeline pressure. What if I had full legal authority to proceed? My blood pressure monitor actually spiked, forcing Dr. Mitchell to adjust my IV to maintain the illusion. Over the next week, Tyler visited exactly twice. Both times he brought a briefcase instead of flowers. During his second visit, I heard him on the phone with someone named Craig Patterson, apparently a probate attorney Tyler had found online. The situation is straightforward, Tyler explained, standing at the foot of my hospital bed like I was already dead. My father had been discussing updating his will before this incident. We'd been working on transition plans for the business. All lies, of course. We'd never discussed transition anything except Tyler's repeated demands that I step aside and let the next generation lead. Yes, I understand the documentation requirements, Tyler continued. Fortunately, my father kept meticulous records. I have access to his office files and personal documents. No, there's no existing will on file. He'd been procrastinating about finalizing the paperwork. Another lie. My current will, dated March 15th, 2022, was sitting in Deposit Box 247 at First National Bank. But Tyler didn't know that. On November 28th, Tyler brought Craig Patterson to the hospital for what he called consultation about emergency estate planning. Patterson was young, hungry, and apparently not too concerned about ethics. He reviewed Tyler's handwritten notes about my expressed wishes regarding business succession. Your father specifically mentioned wanting the business to remain in family hands, Patterson asked. Multiple times, Tyler replied smoothly. He was very concerned about employee disruption, which is why he wanted a clean transition to family management. I almost broke character. Tyler had never shown concern for employee disruption in his life. And he discussed the $8.5 million valuation? He was pleased that his life's work had reached that value. He wanted to ensure I could continue building on his legacy. The word legacy in Tyler's mouth was poison. My legacy was Manuel teaching his nephew knife skills. It was Linda caring for her mother. It was Maria remembering every customer's name. Tyler's legacy would be 67 unemployment applications. Patterson left with instructions to draft preliminary documents based on Tyler's reconstruction of my wishes. 3 days later, Tyler returned with a manila folder and a portable scanner. Dad, if you can hear me, the doctors say your hand reflexes might still be functional, Tyler said, sitting beside my bed with what sounded like genuine emotion in his voice. I need you to know I'm taking care of everything, just like we discussed. He pulled out several documents and began positioning my hand around a pen. The business will be safe. All your employees will be protected. I'm going to honor everything you built. Then he guided my unconscious hand through what felt like 6 different signatures. The pen felt heavy and foreign, But Tyler was careful to make the signatures look shaky and weak, exactly what you'd expect from someone in my condition. "There," Tyler whispered, scanning each document with his phone. "Everything's going to be fine now." After he left, Dr. Mitchell came to check on me. "Frank, this is getting dangerous. If he's actually forging legal documents—" "Sarah, I need you to trust me. How long can we maintain this?" "Maybe another week. Beyond that, other doctors will start asking questions I can't answer." That evening, Tyler didn't come back to the hospital. Instead, he went directly to the probate court and filed documents claiming I'd executed a new will on November 30th, while in the hospital under lucid interval conditions. The forged will was a masterpiece of manipulation. It left Tyler 85% ownership of Johnson's family restaurants, with instructions to continue the family tradition of excellent service and community involvement. The remaining 15% went into a trust for employee appreciation programs managed entirely by Tyler. Carol would receive a $5,000 loyalty bonus. Maria would get $2,000. The other employees would split $25,000 as my father's way of saying thank you for their years of service. Crumbs. Tyler was offering crumbs while stealing an $8.5 million empire. But the most insulting part was the final clause. "I trust my son Tyler to honor the values that built this business and to care for the employees who have become family to me." Tyler had perfectly captured my voice and values while planning to destroy everything I actually cared about. The next morning, I watched through security cameras as Tyler met with mega food executives in our main restaurant. They shook hands after a 90-minute presentation. The acquisition was moving forward. Tyler had the forged will, he had legal standing as my heir, and he had corporate buyers ready to write a check. But he didn't have the real will, and he had no idea what was coming. What Tyler didn't know was that his betrayal had been building my counterattack for over a year. It started in March 2022 during a conversation with my accountant Tom Bradley about employee retention strategies. "Frank, you've got almost zero turnover compared to industry standards," Tom was saying, reviewing our quarterly reports. "Your average employee tenure is 8.3 years. That's remarkable in food service. These people are the reason we succeed. How do I make sure they're protected long term?" "Protected how?" I explained Tyler's attitude toward our staff, his MBA theories about human capital optimization, and my growing concern that he'd gut the business if he inherited it. Tom leaned back in his chair. "Frank, have you considered an employee stock ownership plan?" "What's that?" "ESOP. You transfer company ownership to your employees through a trust. They become shareholders, not just workers. It's completely legal, very tax efficient, and impossible to reverse once established." The concept hit me like lightning. "You mean my employees could own the business?" "Own it, profit from it, make decisions about it. The founder typically retains some control as trustee, but the ownership belongs to the people doing the work." That afternoon, I called Attorney Williams, who specialized in ESOP transitions. "Mr. Johnson, it's an excellent strategy for family businesses where the next generation doesn't share the founder's values," Williams explained during our first meeting. "Once the ESOP is established and funded, no heir can dissolve it or sell the company without employee approval through the trust." "How long does it take to set up?" 6 to 8 months for proper documentation and tax filings. But once it's done, your employees own real equity shares. They vote on major decisions, receive profit distributions, and can't be fired without cause. I spent 3 weeks researching ESOP success stories. Companies where employees owned stock consistently outperformed traditional businesses. Employee owners cared more, worked harder, and stayed loyal longer because they shared in the profits they helped create. In May 2022, I began meeting privately with Carol, our restaurant manager. "Carol, I want to ask you something hypothetical. If our employees owned stock in Johnson's, how do you think they'd respond?" Her eyes lit up. "Mr. Johnson, are you serious? You'd give us ownership?" "I'm exploring options, but I need to know, would people like Manuel, Maria, Linda, would they be interested in truly owning part of the business?" "Sir, most of these people have never owned anything except their cars and maybe small houses. To own part of their workplace, to have a real vote in decisions, it would change their lives." By July 2022, Attorney Williams had prepared all the ESOP documentation. The plan would transfer 95% ownership to our 67 employees, with shares allocated based on years of service and hours worked. I'd retain 5% as founder and serve as trustee for 7 years. The financial projections were stunning. Based on our current profitability, each full-time employee would receive annual profit distributions averaging $4,200. Senior staff like Carol and Manuel would eventually hold shares worth over $30,000, but the real power was in the voting structure. Any sale of the company required approval from 67% of employee shareholders. Tyler could never sell to Megafood without convincing people like Maria and Linda to vote against their own job security. On August 15, 2022, I signed the preliminary ESOP documents in Attorney Williams' office. But I didn't implement them yet. I needed to be absolutely certain about Tyler's intentions. That certainty came during Tyler's September efficiency review, when he presented a plan to eliminate 18 redundant positions and replace our profit-sharing bonuses with performance-based incentives. On October 3, 2022, I returned to Williams' office and signed the final ESOP transfer documents. Mr. Johnson, as of today, your employees own Johnson's Family Restaurants, Williams said, stamping the notarized papers. These documents are filed with the state and the IRS. The transfer is irrevocable. I walked out of that office feeling lighter than I had in months. Whatever Tyler tried to do, 67 families now had protection I could never give them as a traditional boss. But I kept the ESOP secret, waiting for the right moment to reveal it. That moment would come when Tyler's greed finally showed his true character to the world. The public humiliation began on December 8th, when Tyler called an all-staff meeting to announce his plans for our future. By then, I'd been in my coma for 7 days. Dr. Mitchell had updated my condition to stable but unresponsive, giving Tyler the confidence to move forward with what he assumed was his inheritance. The meeting was scheduled for 3 p.m. at our flagship location, after lunch rush but before dinner prep. Tyler had sent formal notices to all 67 employees across our 5 restaurants, requiring attendance for critical business updates regarding ownership transition. I watched the entire thing through our security camera system. Dr. Mitchell had transferred me to a private rehabilitation facility for specialized neurological care, actually her guest bedroom, where I could monitor everything remotely while maintaining the coma charade. Tyler arrived 30 minutes early, dressed in his most expensive suit and carrying a leather portfolio that probably cost more than Maria made in a week. He'd arranged the dining room like a corporate boardroom, with chairs in rows facing a presentation easel. Carol was the first to arrive, followed by Manuel, Linda, and the other senior staff. I watched their faces through the camera, confused, worried, whispering among themselves about what this meeting meant. Maria entered looking exhausted. She'd been working double shifts since I'd been hospitalized, covering for people who were visiting me or dealing with their own family emergencies. Her loyalty was costing her sleep, but Tyler saw it as proof that our staff were operationally redundant. By 3:15, all 67 employees had crowded into the main dining room. Kitchen staff in their whites, servers still wearing their aprons, managers clutching clipboards. These people had built Johnson's Family Restaurants with their hands and hearts. Tyler stood at the front of the room, checking his phone once more before beginning. "Thank you all for coming," he said, his voice carrying that MBA confidence I'd grown to hate. "I know this is a difficult time with my father's condition, but business continuity requires decisive leadership." He clicked to his first PowerPoint slide. Johnson's Family Restaurants Strategic Transition Plan. "As you know, my father has always valued this team. That's why I'm committed to honoring his vision while positioning us for sustainable growth." Carol raised her hand. "Tyler, how is your father doing? The doctors won't tell us much. He's stable but facing a long recovery process, which brings me to today's announcement." Tyler clicked to the next slide. Ownership transition and operational excellence. A murmur went through the room. I could see employees exchanging worried glances. "Effective immediately, I'm assuming full operational control of Johnson's Family Restaurants. My father's will clearly expresses his intention for family succession and business modernization." The word modernization hit the room like a cold wind. Everyone knew what that meant in corporate speak. Tyler clicked through several slides showing profit optimization charts, cost reduction targets, and competitive benchmarking analysis. The numbers were impressive if you ignored what they meant for real people. "Our industry is evolving rapidly," Tyler continued. "To remain viable, we need to eliminate operational inefficiencies and align our cost structure with modern standards." Manuel raised his hand. "What does that mean for our jobs?" Tyler's smile was practiced and empty. "Great question, Manuel. We'll be implementing a comprehensive review of all positions to ensure optimal staffing levels. That's not an answer, Linda said from the back of the room. Are you laying people off or not? The directness of her question clearly irritated Tyler. He wasn't used to being challenged by people he considered support staff. Linda, change is never easy, but it's necessary for long-term stability. Some roles may be restructured or consolidated to improve efficiency. Consolidated? Maria stood up, her voice shaking with emotion. Tyler, I've been here 15 years. I know every customer, every order, every special request. How do you consolidate that? Maria, I appreciate your emotional investment, but modern restaurant operations rely on systems and processes, not individual relationships. We'll be implementing standardized service protocols that any properly trained employee can execute. The room went dead silent. Tyler had just told Maria that 15 years of building customer relationships was worthless, that any minimum wage worker could replace her if they followed the right script. Any properly trained employee? Carol's voice was ice cold. Tyler, Maria generates more customer loyalty than your MBA and your PowerPoint slides combined. Tyler's professional facade cracked slightly. Carol, I understand change can be threatening, but we can't let nostalgia prevent us from achieving our potential. He clicked to his final slide. Partnership opportunity with Mega Food Corporation. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. I'm pleased to announce that Mega Food has expressed strong interest in acquiring Johnson's family restaurants. This partnership would provide resources for expansion, advanced technology systems, and professional management expertise. You're selling us, Manuel said flatly. You're selling the business your father built. I'm securing our future, Tyler snapped, his composure finally breaking. My father's small-town approach was admirable, but it's not scalable. Megafood operates over 300 locations across the Midwest. They have systems, efficiency, resources we could never match independently. And what happens to us when Megafood takes over? Linda asked. Qualified employees will have opportunities to apply for positions under their hiring standards. Megafood has excellent training programs for staff who meet their requirements. The phrase meet their requirements was corporate code for most of you won't make the cut. James Rodriguez, our night shift supervisor, stood up slowly. He was 54 years old with arthritis in his hands and a high school diploma from 1987. Tyler, I've been here 11 years. I've never missed a shift, never caused problems, never stolen so much as a dinner roll. Are you telling me I need to reapply for my own job? James, I'm telling you that professional food service requires certain standards. Megafood will evaluate everyone fairly based on their qualifications and performance metrics. Performance metrics? Maria's voice rose. James knows this kitchen better than anyone. He can prep for 300 covers while training new people and fixing equipment. What metric measures that? Tyler sighed like he was explaining basic math to children. Maria, emotional attachments don't create shareholder value. Megafood has quantitative systems for measuring productivity, efficiency, and customer service quality. Shareholder value? Carol stood up, her 20 years of loyalty finally reaching its breaking point. Tyler, we don't have shareholders. We have customers who trust us and employees who've built this place with their lives. Carol, that's exactly the kind of thinking that keeps small businesses small. My father never understood the difference between running a charity and running a profitable enterprise. The insult to my life's work hit the room like a physical blow. I could see employees looking at each other in shock and anger. Your father, Linda said quietly, built something beautiful here. He created jobs for people who needed them, fed families who couldn't afford fancy restaurants, and treated everyone with dignity. That's not charity. That's community. Tyler laughed, actually laughed, at Linda's words. Community doesn't pay competitive salaries or fund retirement plans. Sentiment doesn't create growth capital or market expansion. My father's beautiful business model left money on the table every day because he was more concerned with being liked than being profitable. That's when I knew Tyler had crossed the line he could never uncross. He hadn't just insulted our employees. He'd revealed his complete contempt for everything I'd spent 30 years building. The meeting ended with Tyler distributing transition timeline packets that outlined the acquisition process and employee evaluation procedures. Most people left in stunned silence, but I'd heard enough. Tyler had shown 67 witnesses exactly who he really was. Tomorrow I'd show them who really owned Johnson's family restaurants. December 15th arrived with perfect timing. Exactly 1 week after Tyler's humiliating staff meeting, just as employees were submitting their reapplication forms to Mega Food Corporation. I'd planned this moment for months. The venue, the witnesses, the documentation, even the timing. Everything designed to maximize the impact of Tyler's public downfall. At 2 p.m., I walked through the front doors of our flagship restaurant for the first time in 2 weeks. The lunch rush had just ended. Carol was training 2 new servers while Manuel supervised kitchen cleanup. Maria was refilling salt shakers and chatting with Mrs. Henderson, who was enjoying her usual Tuesday meatloaf special. The moment Carol saw me, she dropped her order pad. "Mr. Johnson, oh my God, you're awake. How are you feeling? The doctor said—" "I'm feeling much better, Carol." "Is Tyler here?" "He's in your office with some people from Megafood. They're finalizing paperwork for the acquisition. Perfect." "Carol, I need you to call everyone, all managers, all senior staff, everyone who was at last week's meeting. Tell them to be here at 3 p.m. for an emergency announcement." "Sir, Tyler said not to disturb him during his meetings." "Carol, trust me. Make the calls." As employees began arriving, I positioned myself at the same presentation easel Tyler had used for his humiliation speech. But instead of PowerPoint slides, I had a manila folder containing documents that would change everything. At exactly 3 p.m., Tyler emerged from my office with 3 Megafood executives and Craig Patterson, his probate attorney. They were laughing about something, probably calculating their commissions on an $8.5 million sale. Tyler's face went white when he saw me standing in the dining room. "Dad, how are you here? Dr. Mitchell said you were still unresponsive." Funny thing about consciousness, Tyler. Sometimes you hear everything even when people think you can't. The Megafood executives exchanged glances. This wasn't part of their acquisition timeline. "Mr. Johnson," Craig Patterson stepped forward. "I'm Craig Patterson, representing your son's estate planning needs. Tyler showed me the will you executed last month. I'm glad to see you're feeling better, but legally speaking—" "Mr. Patterson, before you continue, I'd like you to meet someone." I gestured toward the front door, where Attorney Williams had just entered carrying his own briefcase and folder. "This is Robert Williams, my attorney for the past 18 months. Robert, would you mind explaining to Mr. Patterson what documents you filed with the state on October 3rd, 2022? Williams opened his briefcase with theatrical precision. "Certainly, Frank. On October 3rd, 2022, we filed articles of organization establishing the Johnson's Family Restaurants Employee Stock Ownership Plan. These documents transfer 95% ownership of the company to your employees through an irrevocable trust." The silence in the room was deafening. Tyler's voice came out as a whisper. "That's impossible. You never mentioned any ESOP. You can't just—" "Actually, Tyler, I can, and I did." I turned to address the employees who had gathered around us. "Folks, I have an announcement that's long overdue." I opened my manila folder and pulled out the first document. "This is a copy of the real will I signed on March 15th, 2022. It's been in deposit box 247 at First National Bank for over a year. Robert, would you read the key provisions?" Williams cleared his throat. "The last will and testament of Frank Johnson establishes the Johnson's Family Restaurants Employee Stock Ownership Plan as the primary beneficiary of all business assets. Ownership shares are distributed among 67 employees based on tenure and hours worked." Carol's hand flew to her mouth. We own the restaurant." "You own the restaurants, Carol. All 5 locations. The equipment, the recipes, the bank accounts, everything. You've been owners since October 3rd, 2022. I just hadn't told you yet." Manuel stepped forward, confusion written across his face. "Mr. Johnson, I don't understand. How can we own something we didn't buy?" "Manuel, you bought it with 8 years of loyalty. You earned it by training new employees and working doubles when we were short-staffed. You and everyone else in this room built this business with your hands and hearts. Now you own what you built." Tyler found his voice, though it was shaking with rage. "This is fraud. You can't transfer business assets without board approval, without proper documentation. Tyler, there is no board. I was the sole owner, and I can transfer my property to anyone I choose. The documentation is completely legal and was filed properly with state and federal authorities." Craig Patterson was frantically scrolling through his phone. "Mr. Johnson, your son has a legal will naming him as primary beneficiary." "Mr. Patterson, my son has a forged document that he created while I was supposedly unconscious. Would you like to see the security footage of him guiding my hand through those signatures?" Williams pulled out a tablet and turned it toward Patterson. "We have timestamps, biometric analysis, and witness testimony. Your client committed felony document fraud. The lead mega food executive, a woman named Jennifer Walsh, finally spoke up. I'm confused. If the employees own the business, who has authority to negotiate the sale? I smiled. That's a great question, Jennifer. Under the ESOP structure, any sale requires approval from 67% of employee shareholders. So you'd need to convince at least 45 of these folks to vote themselves out of jobs and ownership stakes. Tyler told us he had full authority. Tyler told you a lot of things that weren't true. Walsh turned to Tyler with the kind of look corporate executives reserve for people who waste their time. Mr. Johnson, you represented yourself as the legal owner with authority to execute this transaction. Tyler was sweating now, realizing the scope of his disaster. I am the legal owner. My father's will. Your father's forged will, Williams corrected, which, by the way, we'll be turning over to the county prosecutor this afternoon along with the security footage and expert handwriting analysis. Maria raised her hand tentatively. Mr. Johnson, what does this mean for us? Do we really own part of the business? I turned to face all 67 employees who had gathered in the dining room. Some were still in shock. Others were beginning to smile as the reality sank in. Maria, let me explain exactly what this means. Robert, would you break down the ownership structure? Williams pulled out a detailed chart. Each employee receives shares based on a formula considering years of service and average hours worked. Maria, with your 15 years of full-time service, you own approximately 2.3% of the company. Based on current valuation, that's roughly $195,000 in equity. Maria sat down hard in the nearest chair. $195,000? I've never owned anything worth that much. And it grows with the business, I added. As profits increase, so does the value of your shares. Plus, you'll receive annual profit distributions. Last year, that would have been about $4,100 per person. Carol was doing quick math in her head. Mr. Johnson, with 20 years here, what would my shares be worth? Williams consulted his chart. Carol, you own 3.1% of the company. Current value is approximately $263,500. The room erupted in gasps and excited chatter. Manuel was staring at the chart like it was written in a foreign language. This can't be real, he whispered. I'm a cook. Cooks don't own businesses. Manuel, you're not just a cook. You're an owner who happens to cook. There's a big difference. Tyler had been silent through this revelation, but now his desperation broke through. Dad, you're making a mistake. These people don't understand business ownership. They don't have the education or experience to make strategic decisions. Tyler, stop! My voice cut through his panic like ice. These people have been making this business successful for years. They know our customers, our costs, our operations better than any MBA program could teach. Tyler turned to the mega food executives, grasping for any remaining leverage. The sale can still proceed. We can work around the ESOP structure. Megafood could purchase individual shares. Jennifer Walsh shook her head. Mr. Johnson, Megafood doesn't negotiate with 67 separate owners. We acquire businesses with clear title and unified management. This situation is, she searched for a diplomatic phrase, inconsistent with our acquisition model. You're walking away? Tyler's voice cracked. From an $8.5 million deal? We're walking away from a legal nightmare involving document fraud and disputed ownership. Our corporate counsel would never approve this transaction. As the Megafood team packed up their materials and headed for the door, Tyler made one last desperate play. Dad, we can fix this. We can dissolve the ESOP, restructure the ownership. I'll split the sale proceeds with the employees. Tyler, the ESOP is irrevocable. It can't be dissolved without employee approval. And judging by the smiles on their faces, I don't think they're interested in selling their ownership to corporate buyers. Linda stood up, her voice steady and clear. But Tyler, last week you told us we weren't qualified to work here. This week you want us to sell our ownership back to you? The answer is no. A chorus of agreement rose from the employees. No sale. We're keeping our shares. This is our business now. Tyler's face was red with humiliation and rage. This is insane. You're all going to fail without professional management. Small businesses like this don't survive without strategic leadership. Tyler, Carol interrupted, we've been running this business successfully for years. The only thing we're going to fail at is making you rich. Craig Patterson was packing his briefcase with shaking hands. Mr. Johnson, Tyler, we need to discuss the legal implications of the document fraud charges. My office isn't equipped to handle criminal defense. You're abandoning me too? Tyler's voice was approaching hysteria. I'm a probate attorney, not a criminal defense lawyer. You'll need specialized representation for the felony charges. As Patterson hurried out the door, Tyler made one final attempt to maintain some dignity. Dad, I'm still your son. This business was supposed to be my inheritance, my future. You can't just give away everything we built together. The we in that sentence was what finally broke my patience. Tyler, we didn't build this together. I built it with these people. I gestured to the employees surrounding us. You spent 2 years trying to tear down everything we created. You called our staff inefficient. You insulted our customers as emotional attachments. You tried to sell our family to corporate strangers. I was trying to secure our financial future. No, Tyler. You were trying to cash out on other people's work. Well, congratulations. You're getting exactly what you contributed to this business. Nothing. Tyler's shoulders sagged as the full weight of his situation hit him. No inheritance, no $8. $5 million sale, no mega food partnership, just criminal charges and public humiliation. What happens to me now? Williams answered before I could. Mr. Johnson, the prosecutor will likely file charges for document fraud, forgery, and potentially elder abuse. You'll need to retain criminal counsel immediately. And financially? I pulled out one final document from my folder. Tyler, according to my real will, the one in the safety deposit box, you inherit exactly what I think you've earned. My personal savings account contains $127,000. That's yours. Use it wisely, because it's all you're getting. $127,000 versus $8.5 million. The mathematics of betrayal had come full circle. As Tyler stumbled toward the door, Carol called out, Tyler, your keycard is deactivated. You're no longer authorized to enter our restaurants. Our restaurants. The phrase hung in the air with beautiful finality. Tyler paused at the door, turned back one last time. Dad, I'm your son. This isn't how families are supposed to work. Tyler, families are supposed to protect each other, not exploit each other. These people, I gestured to our employees, they're my family now. They earned it. The door closed behind Tyler with a soft click, ending 30 years of misplaced hope that blood would overcome character. I turned back to 67 new business owners who were still processing their transformation from employees to entrepreneurs. Folks, we have a lot to discuss about how employee ownership works, profit sharing, voting procedures, and business decisions. But first, I think we should celebrate. Drinks are on the house, which, by the way, is now your house. The cheers that erupted from our dining room could probably be heard 3 blocks away. The legal consequences for Tyler began before he even made it home from the restaurant. Detective Sarah Martinez from the Des Moines Police Department was waiting in our parking lot when Tyler emerged from his humiliation. Williams had called ahead to coordinate the arrest, ensuring everything happened by the book. Tyler Johnson, I'm Detective Martinez. We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of document fraud, forgery, and elder abuse. You have the right to remain silent. I watched through our front windows as Tyler was handcuffed in broad daylight, in full view of the lunch crowd at Applebee's across the street. Sometimes justice has perfect timing. The arrest made the evening news. Channel 8's business reporter Margaret Davis had been tipped off about the story by Williams, who understood the value of public accountability. A Des Moines restaurant owner's son was arrested today on charges related to forging his father's will while the father was hospitalized, Davis reported from our parking lot. In a stunning twist, Frank Johnson had secretly transferred ownership of his $8.5 million restaurant empire to employees through a stock ownership plan, leaving his son with virtually nothing. The news story included footage of Tyler's arrest and interviews with several employees about their newfound ownership. I never dreamed I could own part of a business, Maria told the camera. Mr. Johnson gave us something we never thought possible, a real stake in our own success. The story went viral locally, then nationally. Within 48 hours, business magazines were calling it the ultimate family business succession story and a masterclass in employee empowerment. But the legal system wasn't finished with Tyler. County Prosecutor James Reed reviewed the evidence Williams had compiled. Security footage of Tyler forging signatures, handwriting analysis proving the fraud, audio recordings of Tyler's conversations with Patterson about reconstructing my wishes, and testimony from Dr. Mitchell about Tyler's behavior during my fake coma. The case was airtight. Tyler's arraignment was scheduled for December 22nd. He'd managed to hire criminal defense attorney Paul Morrison using money from a credit card cash advance, since I'd frozen his access to the family business accounts the moment he was arrested. Morrison tried to argue that Tyler had acted in good faith, believing his father was incapacitated and that the family business needed immediate leadership to prevent collapse. Prosecutor Reed wasn't buying it. Your Honor, the defendant didn't forge documents to save the business. He forged them to sell the business against his father's clearly established wishes. Security footage shows him researching the sale price and negotiating with corporate buyers before his father even entered the hospital. The judge set bail at $75,000. Tyler couldn't make it. He spent Christmas week in the Polk County Jail, which gave him plenty of time to contemplate how quickly his schemes had unraveled. Meanwhile, our employee owners were learning what it meant to actually own their workplace. The first official shareholders meeting was held on January 3, 2024, in our main dining room. All 67 owners attended, along with Williams and an ESOP consultant named Patricia Moore. As employee owners, you now vote on major business decisions, Moore explained. Salary changes, expansion plans, profit distribution, even management hiring and firing. This is your company. Carol raised her hand. What about day-to-day operations? Do we vote on everything? No, you elect a board of directors to handle routine decisions. But big changes require shareholder approval. The first vote was unanimous. I would remain as general manager for 2 years while training employee managers to eventually take over complete operations. The second vote was also unanimous. No sale to any corporate buyer, ever. We built this with our hands, Manuel said during the discussion. Nobody's taking it away from us. The third vote established a fund to help employees buy homes, pay for their children's education, and cover medical emergencies. Real ownership meant taking care of each other. Back in jail, Tyler was facing a harsh reality. Morrison had negotiated a plea bargain, 2 years in state prison, 5 years probation, full restitution for legal costs, and a permanent ban from involvement in any food service business in Iowa. 2 years? Tyler asked during their jailhouse meeting. For signing some papers? Tyler, you committed 5 separate felonies while your father was supposedly incapacitated. The prosecutor could have asked for 8 years. Take the deal. On January 15th, Tyler stood before Judge Rebecca Thompson to enter his plea. Mr. Johnson, you forged legal documents to steal your father's life work while he lay in a hospital bed. You attempted to defraud 67 employees of their livelihoods. These crimes strike at the heart of family trust and business ethics. Tyler mumbled his guilty plea, avoiding eye contact with the gallery where Carol, Maria, and several other employee owners had come to witness his sentencing. I sentence you to 24 months in state prison, followed by 5 years supervised probation. You will pay $85,000 in restitution to cover your victim's legal costs. You are permanently banned from holding any management position in food service within the state of Iowa. Judge Thompson paused, looking directly at Tyler. Mr. Johnson, your father built something beautiful, a business that served its community and supported working families. You tried to destroy that for personal profit. I hope you use your time in prison to reflect on the difference between earning something and stealing it. As Tyler was led away in handcuffs, Maria whispered to Carol, I almost feel sorry for him. Carol shook her head. I don't. He made his choices. Now he gets to live with them. The final piece of Tyler's downfall came when his story hit social media. The hashtag #ESOPJustice began trending, with thousands of people sharing their own stories about family members who'd betrayed business partners or employees. Tyler became the poster child for entitled inheritance culture, the privileged son who thought he deserved what others had built. His MBA classmates shared the news articles with comments like, "Remember Tyler from our entrepreneurship class? Guess he took a different approach to acquiring a business." His ex-girlfriend posted a Facebook status. Dodged a bullet with this one. Imagine finding out your fiancé is a convicted felon who tried to steal his father's business. Even Mega Food Corporation issued a statement distancing themselves from the attempted acquisition, emphasizing their commitment to ethical business practices and transparent ownership structures. Tyler's professional reputation was destroyed before his prison sentence even began. Meanwhile, Johnson's Family Restaurants was thriving under employee ownership. Profit margins increased 23% in the first quarter of 2024. Customer satisfaction scores hit all-time highs, and employee turnover dropped to virtually zero. When someone owns their workplace, they care about every detail. Tyler had gotten exactly what he deserved. Nothing except the consequences of his choices. 6 months after Tyler's sentencing, the transformation of Johnson's family restaurants was complete and remarkable. The employee owners had embraced their new roles with an enthusiasm that surprised even me. Maria, who Tyler had dismissed as minimum wage, was elected to the board of directors and spearheaded a customer service excellence program that increased our Yelp ratings from 4.2 to 4.8 stars. Manuel used his profit distribution to enroll in business management classes at Des Moines Area Community College. "If I'm going to be an owner," he told me, "I want to understand the numbers behind the business." Carol had been promoted to Chief Operating Officer by unanimous shareholder vote with a salary increase to $67,000, more than she'd ever dreamed of earning in food service. The financial results spoke for themselves. Our 2024 revenue increased 31% over the previous year. Employee productivity was up 28%. Customer retention hit 89%, the highest in our company history. But the real proof of our success was in the details Tyler had always dismissed as inefficient emotional attachments. Mrs. Henderson's grandson made the high school baseball team, and we hosted his celebration dinner for free. When James Rodriguez's daughter graduated nursing school, 66 of his co-owners contributed to a scholarship fund in her honor. Linda Peterson's mother beat her cancer, and our employee health fund covered her treatment costs without question. These weren't business expenses. They were investments in the community that sustained us. Tyler, meanwhile, was discovering that prison doesn't offer much sympathy for white-collar criminals who betray their families. His cellmate was a meth dealer from Waterloo who found Tyler's story particularly amusing. "So you tried to steal your dad's restaurant while he was sick? Man, that's cold even for in here." Tyler spent his days working in the prison kitchen for 23 cents per hour, learning firsthand what minimum wage actually meant. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. His monthly phone privileges were limited, and he'd tried calling me several times. I'd declined every call. In August 2024, Tyler's mother, my ex-wife Janet, reached out to me for the first time in 5 years. "Frank, I know what Tyler did was wrong, but he's still our son. He's asking if you'll visit him." "Janet, Tyler made his choices. He chose greed over family, money over loyalty, self-interest over community. Those weren't mistakes. They were character revelations. He says he's sorry. I'm sure he's sorry he got caught. I'm sure he's sorry he's in prison. But is he sorry for what he tried to do to 67 families? Because that's what matters." Janet was quiet for a long moment. "The Tyler I raised wouldn't have done these things. The Tyler you raised is exactly who did these things. We just didn't want to see it." By October 2024, Tyler's story had become a business school case study. Harvard Business Review published an article titled "When Family Succession Goes Wrong, the Johnson's Restaurant ESOP Case Study." The article detailed how Tyler's entitled attitude and corporate greed had actually created the perfect conditions for employee ownership. Frank Johnson's decision to transfer ownership to his workers wasn't just revenge. It was recognition that the people who create value should own that value. Meanwhile, our employee owners were reaping the benefits of their unprecedented ownership opportunity. Carol used her share value as collateral for a mortgage on a 3-bedroom house, the first home she'd ever owned. "Mr. Johnson, I never thought someone like me could qualify for a real mortgage, but when the bank saw my business equity..." Manuel's nephew Roberto was accepted to Iowa State University with a partial scholarship. The employee fund contributed another $8,000 toward his tuition. "My uncle owns a restaurant," Roberto told his college admissions counselor. "He's teaching me that working hard and treating people right is how you build something lasting." Maria bought a reliable used car to replace the 1998 Honda Civic she'd been nursing along for years. More importantly, she'd gained confidence that came with genuine financial security. "I don't worry about unexpected expenses anymore. When you own part of the business, you know your job isn't going anywhere." Linda Peterson enrolled her autistic son in a specialized private school program, paid for through her profit distributions. "This place gave me more than a job," she told a reporter from the Business Journal. "It gave me hope for my son's future." In December 2024, exactly 1 year after Tyler's arrest, we held our first annual employee owner celebration dinner. 67 families gathered in our main dining room, sharing stories about how ownership had changed their lives. Children who would never have considered college were now planning business degrees. Parents who'd worked multiple jobs were now building savings accounts. Employees who'd felt powerless were making decisions about their workplace every day. Tyler was notably absent, still serving his sentence in the Anamosa State Penitentiary. He'd been denied early parole after a fight with another inmate over kitchen cleanup duties. Apparently, Tyler still had trouble with the concept of honest work. As I looked around that celebration dinner, seeing the faces of people who'd built something beautiful together, I realized Tyler had given me an unexpected gift. His betrayal had forced me to find a better way, a way that honored the people who actually created our success. Sometimes the best revenge is building something so good that the person who wronged you could never have imagined it. Tyler was released from prison in January 2026 after serving 20 months of his sentence. He emerged to find that Des Moines had moved on without him. His story was still remembered, but as a cautionary tale rather than current news. The business world had branded him unemployable, and his criminal record made even basic jobs difficult to obtain. He called me once from a payphone outside a truck stop where he'd been denied a job washing dishes. "Dad, I need help. Nobody will hire me. I can't even rent an apartment." "Tyler, you made your choices. The consequences are part of the package. I was your son before I was a criminal." "No, Tyler, you were a criminal pretending to be my son. I just didn't realize it until you showed me." He tried guilt, anger, desperation. Finally, he asked the question I'd been waiting for. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to understand that respect is earned, not inherited. That community matters more than profit. That the people who do the work deserve to own the results." "And if I understand that? Then maybe you'll become someone worth knowing, but that's your choice to make." Tyler never called again. Johnson's family restaurants continued to thrive under employee ownership. By 2026, we'd opened 2 new locations, all employee-financed and employee-managed. Our profit-sharing program had created 12 employee millionaires, including Maria, Carol, and Manuel. More importantly, we'd proven that there was a different way to build a business, one based on shared ownership, mutual respect, and community investment. I officially retired in March 2026, turning over day-to-day operations to our elected management team. My role shifted to advisor and storyteller, helping other business owners understand how employee ownership could transform their companies. The greatest satisfaction came from watching our employee owners mentor the next generation. Manuel's nephew Roberto graduated from Iowa State and returned to manage our newest location. Maria's daughter started working part-time while finishing business school. Carol's son learned kitchen management from James Rodriguez. A legacy isn't what you leave to your children. It's what you build with the people who share your values. Tyler inherited exactly what he deserved, a lesson about the difference between taking and earning. The 67 families of Johnson's family restaurants inherited something much more valuable, ownership of their own success. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to hear about your own experiences with family business, employee loyalty, or standing up for what's right, because sometimes the best inheritance is the one you create together.